Welcome to the Day Scare Centre, the inaugural episode. Exciting times. I am, of course, the Scaregiver, and I will be your host for the evening. I'm of course joined by the incredibly talented and versatile no one. It's just me here trying to run about 17 technological processes, which is proving pretty stressful, actually, such as forgetting to put on this wind guard, or rather sock. Sorry if this blasts your ears. What you want to do is just put that over there, squeeze the air out of the tip, just roll that down. Actually, you're right, roll that down the right way. I know I've certainly made that mistake a few times with a microphone. The supernatural. The supernatural is as expansive as New Zealand's growing inequality and wealth gap is. It is unquantifiable. It is certainly controversial. For some, it is an absolute certainty. It goes without question. And for others, it is an outrageous insult against their perfect intelligence, outright defying, or at least challenging, the imperative theories and deep learnings gained through their incredible tenure in the high school level sciences. Yet many people claim to have been witness to events that just go completely beyond normal experience and outright defy scientific explanation. Now, if the proprietors or the owners of these supernatural experiences are to be believed, these events and phenomena can take on many forms, pretty much limitless forms. I guess at the very basic level, you've got your prototypical ghost, the sort of almost nonchalant, chilled out even, apparition that doesn't seemingly have too much of an agenda besides loitering around various locales and establishments that they could never really move on from while they were alive. And on the more impassioned side, you have your outraged poltergeists, who, for one reason or another, have become considerably adept at throwing cutlery around. And of course, on the other end, you have your sullen ghouls, who are just sort of that whingy, whiny, down-buzz sort of person that nobody really wants to be around, dead or alive. Moving on from the phantomic, we have demonic possession. Now, I'm sure we've all seen movies like The Exorcist, or like the recently brilliant Hereditary, about these disturbed and rather demented young women, typically young women, can be young men, scuttling around on all fours, though you don't have to look far down K Road or Courtney Place on a Friday or Saturday night to see that, so that's neither here nor there, but it is a big one, especially for the Vatican, who, when they're not proliferating and propitiating the perverted penchants of their pedophile priests, or simply put, raping children, they actually have a special forces team dedicated to the apparent worldwide issue of demonic possession. A job, in my opinion at least, that's far more intriguing and endearing than protagonizing child and sex trafficking systems. But I digress. On to the next one. We have aliens and the plethora of associated experiences and phenomena when it comes to aliens. Now, I wouldn't necessarily bracket aliens as inclusively supernatural, certainly not exclusively supernatural. I think just if you just use a bit of your critical faculties, the sheer scale of the universe and the nature of infinity sort of works it out for you if there is intelligent life out there. But I'll concede that we haven't exactly been visited in some mass event, like Signs. Thank fuck for that one. I'm sure we all remember the first time we saw the scene where Joaquin Phoenix's character was watching television in a closet, and it's a classic South American birthday party. I'm not sure if it was a classic South American birthday party. I have no idea what constitutes a classic South American birthday party, but he was watching a birthday party, and the alien saunters out in the alleyway. One of the greatest jump scares of all time. But what I was trying to say before I got distracted was that we haven't really had any meaningful, commonly accepted confirmation of any intelligent life existing outside of New Zealand. But we have had abductions, and a lot of rape apparently just going on left, right and centre. Probings going on willy-nilly, which is unfortunate that rape culture is a big part of the alien experience too. We've got people, waking up in forests and in prairies and just all sorts of arbitrary and bizarre places that they swear they just have no idea how they got there. Well, I've got a few ideas, but while it's probably ketamine, or alcohol of course, they're convinced that they've been chosen, exposed and disposed by some form of intelligent alien life, and if you insist, I guess I'll take your word for it. Next up, we have a subcategory that's a personal favourite of mine, and it's of course cryptozoological beings and entities. I just like the variety of critters and creatures in this subcategory, and as we all know, variety is the spice of life. A lesson I've painfully learned recently from the last several girls I've dated. They liked variety a little bit more than I did, but we all like it a bit, especially in the cryptoid space. For example, take the Jersey Devil. He was a wee critter, frolicking around the Pine Barrens of southern Jersey sometime in the past. Maybe he still is, I don't know him. He was doing his own jump scares. He was a flying horse with a goat's head, and stood upright on two legs. If you're having trouble conjuring an image up in your mind, staring an image up, I implore you to Google the Jersey Devil, because, he just looks fucking ridiculous. Next up, we have the Chupacabra. He was a Mexican doggo sort of thing, roaming around. I don't even know if he was a dog type creature. I know very little about him. Not even sure if he was Mexican, to be fair, but he was somewhere in the Latin areas. I probably won't go too far into the Chupacabra, as it's probably quite clear I haven't done any research on him. Following on from what might be dogs is cats, and I'm talking big cats popping up all over the world. And I'm not talking about tigers in the Sundarbans. I'm talking about big cats popping up in places that they shouldn't be. Like Disney live-action movies. No one wants to see photorealistic lions having earnest human conversations. It just looks fucking dumb. And I'll tell you something that was supernaturally frightening about the recent Lion King remake, is how scarily self-indulgent Beyonce's singing was. We all know you can sing, champ. You don't need to prove anything anymore. So God forbid they make a next one. Just tone it down on the vibrato, maybe a touch. Next one we've got is a cryptozoological being that is genuinely close to my heart. Not physically, he's not with me right now, but he occupies a large space in my heart. It's something I was interested as a young lad. Of course, that is the Mothman. He was half man, half moth. And he was sort of boosting around, navigating his way around Point Pleasant, West Virginia, back in the 60s. They even made an entirely unremarkable movie about him, starring Richard Gere, and some other actors. It wasn't just Richard Gere playing every role. But I'm sure we will cover the Mothman in the future. As I've quite passionately stated, he does occupy a large place in my heart. There's definitely a lot of sentiment there. And if he was indeed real, which he was probably mischaracterized, and as a result misunderstood. And I'm sure we can all, in this day and age, empathize with that just a little. And I'd just like to take a moment's deviation to say that I'm acutely aware that I have assumed the genders of all the above cryptozoological beings and entities, and the truth is, I don't know the sex or the gender of the Jersey Devil. Who fucking does? And I think it's quite clear I don't know anything about the Chupacabra. I'm a bit more convinced and confident in my assumptions of the Mothman, but no one stopped to ask him, so I'm not sure about that either. So if I've offended you with any of that, then I deeply apologise. But I need to wrap up this rant, really. I've been touching on issues that I guess are not befitting for a paranormal podcast. Certainly not the inaugural episode. And perhaps I shouldn't be touching on them. But not touching as many things as I shouldn't, as the Vatican. There are, of course, many other fields and subcategories of the supernatural. You know, we've barely scratched the surface. We'll be going back and revisiting those surfaces in later episodes, but you get the gist. You know what the supernatural is, even if you haven't experienced it or you don't believe in it because you have perfect intelligence and know everything there is to possibly know in this universe. You still know what it is, and perhaps, you know, you even talked about it as a child. You had your sleepovers, didn't you? And your friends came over, and you'd have your meat lovers pizzas and Hawaiian pizzas, and then afterwards you'd have a few chockies, and then you didn't turn off the lights, did you? You kept the lights on because you had been telling ghost stories. Some of you even still keep the lights on. And to those people, I have to say, grow up. Yeah, grow the fuck up. It's time to move on. But it really is time to move on. Onto story time. Now, the first few stories of the Day Scare Centre are going to be centred around just general spooky experiences. Just your typical ghosts and things like that. Nothing too intense. I want to kind of ease the haters and the skeptics into this. You don't want to go balls to the wall and start things off with a flying horse with a fucking goat's head. So the first stories I've just taken from Reddit. I'm not sure of the legality of that, but due to this being the premiere, it goes without saying that I'll have minor levels of listeners, and it would be incredibly unfortunate if I was to get in trouble over this. But hey, stranger things have happened. So if you don't hear from the Scaregiver, if you don't hear from the Scaregiver again, you can assume he's been taken through the legal system. Welcome back. It turns out that idea will be highly illegal. So I was told that by a guy at a Turkish restaurant. I'm not sure what experience he has in podcasting, but he seemed quite convinced that it was unethical, taking stories from Reddit. I don't think it's a big deal. So I'm going to do something even more unethical and going to ring people on my Facebook messenger list who have no idea I'm calling them. I'll ask them for permission after I've done it. So if it's on here, they've given me permission. And this segment's going to be called Potentially Paranormal, as I have no idea whether they've got a story or not. I'm going to try and ring some people who I think would have one, you know, highly spiritual, people that own crystals and things like that. I'm going to start things off with Maria Alejandra Estevez. She's a close friend of one of my closest friends. I've never met her, but we added each other on Facebook after a very vague conversation on Instagram once. So I know that she's quite into this sort of stuff, according to my friend. So we'll see what she has to say. She's based in Miami.
Hey dude, so listen, I'm on a shenanigans right now.
You're on a what?
Kind of drunk, but what's up?
Are you drunk?
A little bit, not really actually.
No, that's fantastic. So I just wanted to ask you about any paranormal experiences you may have had.
I can tell you that I've had a lot, well, not personally, but a little bit myself, but my mom has had a bunch because she's literally like grown up so spiritual. Like, she's a twin, and
Right.
her twin has literally casted out like demons and shit, like exorcisms. So I can tell you a lot about that.
Well, let's just launch straight into it. Let's launch straight into demonic possession.
Dude, I can't talk right now. I'm with a date.
I hope it's with your boyfriend.
Yeah, it is.
You didn't sound convinced there. Okay, I'll give you a call back in a couple.
I wouldn't, yeah, you know.
Yeah. I'll give you a call back in a couple of hours, okay? Next up, I called close friend, confidant, and skeptic Mitch Whiffen. To be honest, I wasn't expecting a lot from this call, but I was shocked with the depth he gave.
Yo.
Is that?
Uh-huh.
I was just curious if you had any supernatural experiences you wanted to share with me.
No, I don't actually. But no.
I then called another close friend and confidant of mine, Ben Harrier Hunt. I wasn't entirely sure where he sat within the supernatural spectrum. I just wanted to know if you had any supernatural experiences.
No, because I've always stayed away from Ouija boards and stuff like that. They terrify me because it's real. But yeah, I know some stories. My mum's got, some stories of when they did that sort of shit. Candles exploding, kittens catching fire and shit like that. And she woke up.
Yeah.
One night in the middle of the night, she heard a smash. So she got up, walked over, turned on the light, and there was, a vase, one of her precious vases, on the floor of her bedroom, smashed.
Yeah.
And she was like, "What the fuck? There are no windows open or anything." And she looked at the table, and there was this long, line, this long drag line where it had been dragged through the slight layer of dust on the table and off the side of the dresser. So there was some scary shit going on, right? Some spooky shit. So we looked up what to do, and it was you gotta try talk to the spirit or whatever the presence that's there, and tell it that you don't want it anymore. So we did that. We told them, basically, fuck off. What are you doing? We don't want you here.
It wasn't very polite.
No, we tried to be respectful, actually.
Right.
I'd take that back. We were quite respectful out of fear of what this could be.
Yeah, he might smash another vase.
Exactly. Okay, but a few seconds after we made that statement, the power went out. And no other houses on the street went out. It was just this house. Everything just went down, out.
Yeah, I've had a similar experience like that in at Parliament, actually, where there was some strange...
Of course, there would be some dark forces there.
Yeah, well, it's pretty renowned for some strange paranormal activities, but yeah, similar thing. We were in the bathroom, the girls' bathroom. There was many men in the girls' bathroom, by the way. It wasn't just me. Three of the women ran out.
For another time, yeah.
Three of the women ran out into the main sort of area we were working at, and they were all pale white, and they said that there had been strange flickerings and it all went very cold or something like that. I can't quite remember, I'm probably exaggerating it, but me and about three other guys cruised in there, just confidently cruised into the females' toilets. We were escorted by them, so it felt like it was appropriate, and as soon as we started talking, the same thing happened. We were like, "Hey, we want you to get out of here," and the lights would flicker, and then the lights would go off with every cue. But then we had a Maori exorcist sort of event where a potato was put in the corner of the room, and some words were said, and the this really happened, and then apparently the word.
A holy potato grown in holy land.
Well, apparently it was something to do with the offering.
Right.
Yeah, a bit of a munch, I suppose. But apparently it worked because there was nothing that happened while I was working there anyway since. But the Parliamentary Library's quite haunted. But I just hijacked your story anyway. So you got a second story.
Yeah. So basically, it's a story that happened down in Southland. There was this huge farm that this farmer owned, and for some reason he loved abseiling, and he had a large set of cliffs because he lived on sort of fjords. So he went abseiling down this cliff. Oh, it was to go to a cave. That's right, the cave that was on his land. He was always keen to check it out. So he went there, and he found that it was some sort of old burial site. There were lots of bones lying around. So he took one of the skulls from there. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I'll get my nice little ornament to place on the mantelpiece. A human skull. This guy must have been some sort of, mildly a bit of a creep.
Yeah. Just to put it lightly.
And within a week, he got back home, and within a week he was on his deathbed, right?
I shouldn't laugh
This
at that,
guy was
but
sick.
shouldn't be taking skulls from caves, really.
Exactly. But the doctors had no no reasoning for why it was sick. They couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
So the wife, who had a bit of Māori heritage, was like, well, okay, I'm going to call in the local iwi priest to come deal with this, because, you know, we're sort of on our last legs here, looking for some homeopathy. But so he came, and he figured it out in an instant. He was like, oh, okay, bro, okay, so we're going to take you, and you're sick.
Was he that nonchalant? Was he that like, okay, bro, okay,
No,
bro?
I didn't know the guy personally, but that's just to imply that he figured out pretty quickly how this guy fucked up.
He had it covered.
Yeah, he was on the case. So he took this guy, he's like, you're going to have to abseil back down to that spot in your condition. I don't care, just, you got to do it. So I'm like,
I forgot about the abseiling aspect.
Yeah, exactly. So this fucking guy on death's doorstep abseiled back down the cliff with the skull and put it back. And you know that, but before that, the priest blessed it and all that, and I guess gave his apologies on behalf of the farmer. And then another week passes, and this guy's healthier than he's ever been. Completely back to normal.
Yeah,
A little shaken, but yeah, it's don't mess with the juju, essentially.
Yeah.
Because then you'll get chased by the voodoo.
He was shaken but not stirred.
Exactly. I actually used that joke with my father last night.
And finally, I gave Maria a call back after her date, which apparently went well.
My mom had seen a witch where she lived in this other house where the bathroom was like, you know, like they had to walk like 10 minutes to go to the bathroom. My mom was really poor in her youth, and she had to walk to the bathroom, and it was like this little clay bathroom thing in Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
And witches in the sense of the realistic sense of like the Latin American, Central American sense, they're known to be huge birds with human faces.
These are witches.
Those are witches. Those are like the real, like South American way of knowing them.
Yeah, I think I've seen some of them depicted before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're like black birds, like huge human-sized birds.
Yeah, like crows, right? With human
like
crows almost. Yeah.
That's the word, exactly. Like crows with human faces. So my mom went to the bathroom and she was shitting, whatever, and a witch came and sat in her face. Like literally just sat in front of her. And she never forgets that. She told me stories about how she's
But well, let's just go back rewind a moment.
Mm-hmm.
The witch came and sat on her face.
No, she sat in front of her face.
Oh.
Like she just sat in front of her while she was taking a shit, like in her most vulnerable moment.
Yeah, that's not the greatest time. There's no great time to see a witch, but that's not ideal.
Because you're already shitty, right?
Yeah.
You can't even shit.
I mean, but if there's that's a horrible experience.
It's when you're shitty.
Yeah, that is. So what? But it was like an apparition that was in front of her, or it was a physical. You feel like you could touch it, sort of thing.
Yeah, it was a physical operation where I just stood in front of her and she was in shock. So she got her pants up and ran back to her house.
A voyeur witch, a pervert.
In superstition, not superstition, but I would say evangelic belief. There's a huge belief in the Bible that when you say the word of God, just those 3 letters, Dios in Spanish.
Maria went on to tell me many, many great stories that we'll save for later episodes. Thanks for joining me for episode 1. Please like and subscribe and do the general things you do after watching a YouTube video. The episode will soon be available on Spotify and iTunes, and we hope to see you back, or at least I do. It's just me, the Scaregiver, Mariah Scary McCleary, whatever you want to call me. I'll be back for episode 2 in perhaps a fortnight.